More than a year ago, I started putting together a compilation of films Roger Deakins shot. I figured I would take some beautiful shots and some interview clips, add some music to make a fun little video celebrating my favorite cinematographer. A format that is already well established in today's online world. When I started reflecting on my intentions now, I realized that it would be a contradiction to his understanding of cinematography. Rather than celebrating the art form, it would endanger it by promoting and judging the wrong aspects of the work.
You know, I love images and telling stories with images and how you move the camera and framing. What difference does you move the camera that way, that little bit, what difference does that make to the effect it has on an audience? A light's here, or it's a light here, or it's a here, or it's a here, or, you know, it's back here. What difference what do those differences, how do they affect the scene and the audience's perception of the story and their immersion in that story?
Taking single frames and isolating them destroys all their original value. They might still look pretty, but in most cases, that wasn't the original goal. In film, shots become meaningful when put into context to the ones before and after. This context creates purpose. It tells a story. In Story, Robert McKee argues that film is against the first intention not related to photographs and paintings. It uses visuals to express itself, but it does so through time. It is therefore a temporal art, like music, dance, or theater. In a way that a single note, a single move, or a single line doesn't mean anything, a single frame out of a film is meaningless in itself. It is this simple but crucial idea that is too often misunderstood, not just by viewers, but by critics, filmmakers, and studio executives alike.
I think people confuse pretty with good cinematography. What was it Freddie Francis says? There was good cinematography and bad cinematography, and then there's the cinematography that's right for the movie.
A great way to demonstrate the effects of this problem are the Oscars. Roger Deakins was nominated 13 times before finally winning with Blade Runner 2049. And then just 1 year later again with 1917. Both were absolutely justified, but both have very flashy cinematography in a way. 1917 was practically marketed for its feature of being shot to look like a one-shot. And Blade Runner... What is important to remember in that respect is that in both cases, the cinematography turned out the way it did because that was what the story needed. The one-shot feel of 1917 isn't just a gimmick, but the story only works because of it.
A couple of people have said about the film, wouldn't it been just the same if there'd been some cuts? But that wouldn't have had the effect that Sam was after.
We really took a lot of trouble to make sure that it wasn't a gimmick, that the story was served.
And Blade Runner 2 is shot the way it is because part of what already made the original so exciting is the visual exploration of the futuristic world it is set in. That this is on a superficial level more exciting than, let's say, No Country for Old Men is obvious, but that says nothing about which one has better cinematography. The worrying part isn't that those two won Oscars, it is that out of the 15 films Roger Deakins was nominated for, those two won. Roger Deakins deserves both he got, because the films are masterfully shot, but so were the others before. The Academy Awards aren't the real problem. It is that this effect translates to the general discussion on cinematography.
For me, this is incredible to realize still nowadays. What you can expect as a DP is to get one line at the end of the review, saying just 2 words about your work. So how can you explain what you do in 2 lines? So of course, I was very kind of simplistic, I would say.
Almost no review really reviews the cinematography. Most just mention it so that it is mentioned in a way that can't really be wrong.
You want to see if you're mentioned. You go to the end, it's like, oh, I made it. And then and basically we have to look at it and go, are the adjectives going to be correct? Because we're going to get 2 adjectives, and that's it. And are they going to be correct, or are they going to be related to the film? And if they are, then you're happy because they actually kind of got what you were trying to do and what your effort was. If the adjective is wrong, they say it's pretty, spectacular. It's a completely generic comment.
I'm not in any way suggesting that we should stop talking about the cinematography of films. We should, but it should be an informed discussion.
I often feel that actually if reviewers don't mention your work, it's probably better than if they do.
There's also nothing inherently wrong with calling certain films beautiful, because some are, but it shouldn't be just about the beauty itself. The discussion should focus on how that beauty serves the bigger picture, how it helps to tell the story, because in the end, that is what matters.
Yeah, that's right. It becomes all about style and not about the content and the characters.
That most discussion today is so focused on beauty is because it's what people notice and what they feel comfortable talking about. When we compare to acting and writing, it becomes clear where the difference is. Say, Marie goes to see a movie. Let's say this film is an absolute catastrophe. A terrible script that is acted weirdly and is shot beautifully, although there was no reason to do so. Afterwards, her friend asks how the film was. She recalls that the plot made no sense, that she rather saw the actors than the characters, but in her boredom she noticed that it looked extremely pretty, so that's what she will tell her friend. What happens between friends can happen in higher ranks of production companies as well. Feature films, the kind that you are going to watch in cinemas or on television, are big productions. There are many people involved, everyone with their own opinion and preferences. If enough of them, especially producers and other executives who have power, believe that the film should look beautiful, and this is even supported by the audience, who seem to like beautiful movies, that is going to influence the production. This, however, lowers the overall quality of the film. It got worse, and when looking for a cause, nobody is going to look at the camera because it is beautiful and that's how it's supposed to be, right? The solution is to start to add more dimension to the discussion on cinematography than pretty and beautiful. The cinematographer does more than just putting the camera somewhere, hitting record and capturing whatever is in front of them. That would be filming a theater performance.
And I think so many films now, without going to, so many films now are just they purely record what's on the page. And you get this kind of leaden, kind of dialogue-driven nothing.
The camera should be part of the performance, like an additional main character that just doesn't appear on screen, because it creates the screen. There are many different factors the cinematographer can change to manipulate the performance of the camera. The audience would be surprised if Darth Vader showed up in Little Women. The same should be true for the cinematography. As an extreme example, imagine the Grand Budapest Hotel being shot like a modern action blockbuster, say John Wick. What is fairly obvious in this example also applies within genres. Every movie needs something different because no two stories are the same.
But other than that, if I'm working with somebody else, if I go for an interview or something, I went for an interview once, and the director said, I really love Shawshank. I just want this to look like Shawshank, Well, it's not interesting, you know what I mean? It's not, but why would that script want to look like Shawshank anyway? That's the thing. I think that's the wrong approach. I think every script, kind of demands something special from anything else,
Many details certainly won't be consciously noticed by the average viewer, but subconsciously they have an immense effect if it's done well. In that case, the camera work blends in with the rest, as one isn't supposed to be aware of the structure of the screenplay, the actors behind the characters, nor any other aspect of the filmmaking process.
I mean, a film is something that you don't want any shot to be kind of outside of all the others in a way. You want everything to sort of feel as a piece. I don't like it, and obviously people do. They say, oh, that shot, how did you like that, or something. In a way, that's my failure, because you shouldn't really, nothing should specifically stand out. You're trying to put the audience in a world that they're immersed in, and everything should flow as a piece.
The next time you're watching a film and a shot consciously sticks out from the rest, ask yourself, is this a good thing? All of that said, I have to admit that it is tempting to look through the viewfinder and think, this looks pretty, amazing, that's the one. It can be satisfying, and even though the question that should follow immediately is, does this help the story or distract from what is actually going on? It isn't always that easy, and sometimes a shot might even have to stick out. It isn't a black and white thing. I am only touching the surface when it comes to into what depth you can go when discussing cinematography. It isn't simple, and it takes time to learn how to notice and talk about it. We should appreciate well-shot films and be able to criticize generic and unimaginative work in a way that we already do with other aspects of cinema. Thanks for watching.